Good evening, welcome to the Syon and Brentford Area Forum. It seems quite a while since we were all here. The last one had to be postponed until now. It's great to see you all again. I hope you enjoyed some lovely food, which is courtesy of Joe at the Spire Cafe. I can see a few people still enjoying the food. That's brilliant. Start with, let's introduce ourselves. We have two new councillors, and I welcome their positive contributions for at least the next year. Why don't we start with Theo?
Hi, thank you, Dan. Yes, my name is Theo Denson. I now represent, again, Syon and Brentford Lock, the stuff the other side of the main road, just a little bit down south of the High Street. And if you've got any issues, even if you're not in the ward, you're most welcome to give me a call.
So I'm Guy Lambert. I'm the only councillor here tonight for Brentford West because apparently Emma, my partner, is ill with norovirus, which sounds like a good reason for her not to be here. I'll just give you a warning. My hearing is very poor. The last time we had one in here, I couldn't hear a word, and people nudged me and said they're talking about something that you're interested in. And I said, no. I said, write it down, and that will tell me what to respond to. So, but I will. My hearing is a bit better because I've got better hearing aids, but I might not hear you, so don't be upset if I don't.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm one of the councillors for Syon and Brentford Lock, and I also lead on climate and transport for the council. Obviously, we do have some transport-related stuff tonight, so I shall leave it to the experts, but happy to help if needed.
I'm Dan. I'm a councillor in Syon and Brentford Lock and chair of the meeting.
I'm Bill. I'm not a councillor. I'm clerk.
Hello, I'm Councillor Marina Sharma, Brentford East Ward.
Hello, I am Max with a microphone far too close to him. I'm the newly elected councillor for Brentford East. I was elected just a few weeks ago, so please do bear with me while I get up to speed in case I don't know any answers to your questions, but we will endeavour to figure them out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any apologies for absence or declarations of interest?
We have apologies for absence from Councillor Yates, who's unwell.
Can we agree the minutes of the meeting? Everyone happy with those?
Yeah, agreed.
Yep, okay, agreed. Board updates from members. Catherine?
Quite a few things to update on for Syon and Brentford Lock. Obviously, the High Street falls largely in that ward, and there's been quite a lot of activity around that. And there was a meeting organised by Brentford Voice last week that for the High Street retailers. There's a lot of concern about the High Street and wanting it to do really well, and so that was a positive meeting. It was attended by quite a lot of retailers, residents, and several councillors as well. And so people were coming up with good ideas there. So thank you very much to Brentford Voice for organising that. People will know that the Everyman Cinema opened this last weekend, and has been having opening free films that I know several people have seen. They've talked to me about it tonight. So I haven't seen a film, but I did go there to eat, and it's definitely worth a visit. So we're all rooting for that. Sadly, Hewson's Books has closed, so that is a loss. And so I guess one of the reasons why retailers are now getting together to help to kind of try to promote things. We know there's empty units that need filling as soon as possible. And Councillor Bruce, who leads on regeneration, was able to give us an update around some of the businesses that will be moving into the council block, formerly known as Block D. Some of those getting the keys in the next couple of weeks to start being able to fit out those empty units, so that is welcome news as well. Other than that, moving on to various issues down the other end of the ward, West Middlesex Hospital, there's work going on there, building their new unit. Dan and I have been dealing with various noise complaints there, and just helping residents out with that. This end again, Fairview, I think most of the noisy work has finished. Guy, my spy in the ward, tells me that it's much quieter now, and work is ongoing. I know that some residents did have some success with taking some legal action over some of the absolute worst of the noise and vibrations. What else has been going on? I've been working with some of the boat dwellers from Town Wharf, who will be moving temporarily into Workhouse Dock while work goes on the rest of the Brentford project development, helping them out with some of the issues that they've had there. And then I'm not going to go through everything. I was very pleased to see that the Pocahontas memorial on the wall of Syon Park has been cleaned up recently and that horrible black paint removed.
Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else? Marina.
Thank you, Dan. I just would like to welcome Max as my new colleague for Brentford East, and I'd also like to say a thank you to former Councillor Williams for his support previously. The updates in our wards, we are currently dealing with some ASB over on Clay Ponds, which I've been supported by the police and officers, and we're working hard to get that sorted. That's been going on for a couple of months now. It's quite a technical case, so I can't say too much about that. Over on Haverfield and Towers, I have been, and Max will be supporting me with this as well, dealing with the rubbish collection and the littering and the recycling Metro stores. That has been an ongoing issue for quite some time. And some of the good news is that the graffiti in the towers, on the outside of the tower blocks, that is being cleaned up within the next couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I'm going to slightly play around with the agenda, and instead of weed planning, we're going to go on to, in a second, Transport for London, which I know a lot of people are keen to hear. But before we do, I just want to say, I know that there are a number of issues. I know that residents feel very strongly about them, and I know that residents' lives have been impacted by them. But we have Ijoma from TfL, and I want you all to remember that Ijoma is not in charge of TfL, and she didn't make all of these decisions. And also to remember that Ijoma is a person. So, and she's worthy of respect. So robustly make your points, but let's keep it courteous and keep it kind. So Ijoma, if you'd like to come up. No, take a seat. And we've actually just discussed this. I think it's going to be better, rather than doing a presentation, there's a number of issues that people want to talk about, so we're going to go straight to questions. So does anyone have a question for Ijoma? Right here at the front was the first hand. Sorry, Julie, you were beaten, but you will be second. Yeah.
Hello, good evening to everybody. Bus stop N in Boston Manor Road, near the station. The people who put that stand, the signs are wrong. It says showing Boston Manor station that way, towards Brentford.
The sign's pointing in the wrong way.
Yes,
And it's bus stop N
yes.
for November on Boston Manor Road.
That's right, yes. And also, when it rains, because about that much gap at the top, the water comes inside on the seats. That's not ideal, really, is it? I mean, there should be done something about it.
Sorry, I'm just going to quickly introduce myself. My name is Joan. I work for Transport for London in their engagement team. Madam, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with that bus stop. I will take a note of it and I will respond to Councillor Dowling in writing if that's okay.
Okay. When they put these bus stops, is there anyone who goes checks whether it is done properly or not?
Yeah, we do. We have an asset operations team that regularly do check on our bus stops, but when things like this occur, it's great when you do tell us about it, because there's some things that might, you know, miss an inspection. So thanks for letting us know, and I'll make sure that I'll flag it with our asset operations team, and I will respond in writing.
Thank you. So get your details.
Is that the glass is put up to, there is no gap.
Okay.
Okay, so leave your details with Chris, and then Julie's the next question, and we'll follow that up.
Hi, and thanks for coming. I've been going on about it for years. The biggest question I think most people be talking about is the 65. You need a passport to go over the Great West Road. Every other that bus now turns round. Somebody's turned me off. We have an elderly live over there as well, and we can't get buses. A lot of elderly do not have phones that will tell you that the buses aren't running. And then the other night, I actually saw a 65 throwing people off the bus at the traffic lights, just so it could turn round. This is getting beyond the joke. We have no bus route going up to Ealing Broadway, and it's getting worse. And same with the I'll do 2 in 1, so you won't have me. Great West Road, again, round Ealing Road. The traffic lights are absolutely disgusting. They're on a different turning, and it doesn't cost a lot of money just to get a little man up and put a timer onto it. But there's one way where you only get 2 cars through, and then you have to wait again. And it's only someone needs to change the timer.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just address your the point that you made about the 65. We've had so much concerns raised. You're not the only one. And do you know what? I did actually speak to our bus performance team about why do buses keep on terminating before Ealing Broadway? Like, why can't they? And the feedback that they gave me, and this is verbatim, I am going to read off my little sheet here. And it's mainly down to my momentum, sorry. So we asked First Bus, they asked First Bus if buses can curtail further north of Ealing Broadway. Unfortunately, due to the way drivers' hours are and the drivers' relief points, where there is significant disruptions to services, curtailments are conducted here to prevent issues with drivers' hours being breached. So because the route has been impacted by several extenuating factors, roadworks and notice of events, that's the reason why. But I am really going to push this because I don't understand why it's that particular point. But as they've said, it's just to make sure it aligns with drivers being able to go on their break in timely manners. No, but I totally understand.
Put ball lose.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in with a question on that. So sometimes I'll be on a bus and it will stop and the driver will get off and a new driver will get on. I appreciate if there's a legal or an employment reason that driver can't continue. And if we know that this is a problem that sort of keeps happening, would it be possible to do some sort of driver exchange at that point?
Do you know what? I can raise it with our bus performance team. I can't say that I can't make a commitment now. I'll have to run it past the relevant team when that's a valid point, actually.
Next was Debbie at the back.
Thanks, Dan. If buses run out of time, bus drivers run out of time at the roundabout, then split the route. Have a Kingston to Brentford A4 roundabout, and have another route that runs from the A4 roundabout up to Ealing, comes back down, circles around the roundabout, goes back to Ealing. Sorry, it seems like a... if it's too long a route from Kingston to Ealing, have a 65A and a 65B. You know, sorry, seems like an obvious answer.
Do you know, I can raise it with our bus performance team. But I know there's like quite a significant amount of work that goes into like our bus routes, and I don't think that's something that we could do overnight, but I can definitely raise it with them and respond in writing if that's okay.
Start them in Ealing, and then they can get down as far as Kew and turn round, and then Kingston miss out.
Okay, so next there was a hand here. It's gone. We've got Mel at the front. And then...
Is it my turn?
Yes, it is, Mel.
Thank you. Yeah, hanging my coat on the 65 debacle, as my wife was a sufferer on Saturday, where she was turfed off a bus, and the next 5 actually turned at the roundabout there. I've suggested moons ago 2 things. First of all, particularly on match days at Twickenham, that they run a service from Ealing Broadway to George Street in Richmond, because that's a natural turning point there. And then from there run a service up to Kingston. But the other more obvious one, and I know there's a lot of money being spent anyway in doing it, is why on earth can we not reconsider the route of the 235 and take the 235 up to Ealing Broadway, park them where the 65s go, and send the original buses that have now piggybacked onto the 65s there. And instead of the bus going right through to Sunbury Village, turn it at Lower Feltham, and you make much more use of the bus 657 from Hounslow through to Sunbury Village. That's my first point, and so I don't bore the meeting. I, as a visually impaired person and speaking on behalf of all people with disabilities, can I please plea that you really look at the island bus stops. They are poorly lit, and sooner, if not later, there is going to be a very, very serious accident. I'm told that they're lit. They are not. They are not properly lit, and certainly I don't think there's any CCTV cameras around to make sure that these little pedestrian walkways are properly surveyed. So that's my plea. A, on the 65, B, on the 235, but my biggest plea is on behalf of all disabled and elderly people about the island bus stops. They are a mare.
So much. I think that's an interesting point that you made with the 65 and the 235. Unfortunately, I won't be able to give an answer on that. I will raise it with our bus colleagues, and I will respond to Councillor Bowering in writing. And your comment about the poorly lit island bus stops, are there any? Do you know? Yeah. But are there any areas in particular that I can?
Lady over here.
I'm talking to complain about our permanent temporary bus stops on Commerce Road near the bus depot. Because they're temporary, the drivers don't always stop. When are we going to get a permanent sign so that they're obliged to stop? These are the two stops, end of Commerce Road, the northern end nearest the depot for the E2.
So I'm not familiar with those stops. I can raise it with our bus teams, but that's unfair. They shouldn't be bypassing those temporary stops because, you know, passengers need to use them. But yeah, unfortunately, I'll have to come to that and make sure I raise it with our bus performance teams because that doesn't sound right, and I apologise for that. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure that I provide a response in writing.
Thank you. That's a good question. Then it's the lady here. Chris? Keep your hand up so Chris can give you the mic.
Hello, Kate Mortimer. Could I make some kind of suggestion about protecting the revenue of the buses? I'm sure many of us here who travel regularly on buses come across people who are not prepared to pay the fares, cause all sorts of problems, arguments with the drivers. Could I perhaps suggest you had some kind of camera where the driver is and they could take a photograph? I was on a bus a couple of days ago, the E8. As we came into Jessamine Road to come down this way, the previous E8 tipped all the passengers off the bus. The people all had to get on our bus. Then the guy bounded ahead, and of course subsequently, because they'd lost time, we were having to wait all the time. And apparently the driver had said because the person refused to pay his fare, he tipped all the rest of the passengers off, and this is just not acceptable. Thank you.
No, I agree that's not acceptable. You know, as a transport authority, we rely on fares. Do you know what I mean? That's how we keep our network moving. And I can't rationale why they would actually remove like fare-paying customers for one, but it could just be the driver might have been just frustrated or something along those lines, but it's still unacceptable.
Yeah, the driver said the man apparently who was refusing to pay Sorry. The man who was apparently causing this problem, I think the lady said to me it was a man, he got on our bus, he refused to pay, he had an altercation with the driver, and I was empathising with the driver when I got off, and he said it happens every day.
Amanda, that's the E8, did you say? Yeah. I will raise it with the performance manager because that does sound unacceptable, particularly if it's something that happens, as you said, on more than one occasion. But as I said, our buses are fitted with CCTV, which are used to like protect, you know, customers from antisocial behaviour and abuse and stuff like that. But you know, honestly, we need our revenue. You know, we do, and that's unacceptable. And I'm sorry for your experience, but as I said, I will raise it with the bus performance manager because that sounds terrible.
Thank you, gentleman here. On your left.
So the cycle lane built on last year on the High Street, Brentford High Street, I'm sure it's a brilliant idea, but the cars emerging from Ferry Lane and all the street down there, now the car driver need to watch for car on both direction as well as for cyclists. But
so,
I think there's
sorry, so it's the cars emerging from Ferry Lane onto the High Street and how they intersect with the bike lane.
Yeah.
There's problems there, is there?
Well, I mean, so now car driver has to watch for car on both direction, depends on where he's going or she's going. And on top of that, the cyclists are coming very, sort of emerging as well. And then says you have to watch for cyclists, watch for cars, definitely. But there should be separate sign on a road to put a caution for drivers that, look, you have to watch for cyclists as well. Now, there should be some separation from the normal cycle lane to the part of the cycle lane where cars could emerge. It's just an opinion. I mean, it's because so many times what happen, you try to go from High Street to Ferry Lane car park, and then you see so many cyclists are rushing in. I think both car driver and the cyclist should be vigilant, and there is no sign on road that, look, there may be a car, there may be a cycle, something should be there on a road. You can't put a sign on like a post type things, but at least something should be on a road. That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. And we've got Rob from Traffic and Transport, so I'm sure he'll look into that. That's the junction with Ferry Lane. Jane, unless you wanted to comment further. Just wait for the microphone. But please do. Just so the microphone is connected to the loop system. So if there's anyone here who's got a hearing aid, and this is also broadcast on YouTube, and so we do want everyone to be able to hear your question. So that's the reason for the microphone.
I was just going to add, in addition to the Ferry Lane crossing the cycle path, from Brentford Beehive down towards the McDonald's Waterman's area, there are 10 little roads that cross this cycle lane. So it's not just Ferry Lane that it's a nightmare to turn out of. There's 10 other little roads like Town Meadow, Thames Path, and various others. So for them all to cross the cycle lane, it's a total nightmare. And because of the angle of the road and the speed that the cyclists come down, it's just treacherous, and it just really feels there's going to be a fatality there. So in Boston Manor Road, you've got a two-way cycle path, and there's a cycle path on the north side of Brentford High Street, and yet there's the one on the south side which crosses 10 roads. So I would just have preferred to have seen a two-way cycle path on the north side than to have a cycle path have to cross 10 roads. That's the query, so it continues what this gentleman was saying.
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, in Chiswick, there's I think it's a bi-directional cycle path is what they call, and the problem that people in Chiswick would tell you is when you're trying to cross that junction, you're having to contend with bikes coming from both ways. So it is a tricky one, but yeah, that's definitely noted. Any more questions for TfL? Julie again.
Just following on about signs and that, for the last 2 years, and it is highways, so it's got to come under TfL on that one. We have a sign, which is the biggest antisocial behaviour problem we have, is on Clayponds Avenue, that is a no right turn onto Chestnut Avenue onto Clayponds Avenue. And the thing is, there is going to be an accident. There nearly was the other week again. So if there's any antisocial behaviour, it's on that corner. And the thing is, all we're asking is for the sign to be taken away. So yet again, it's another sign issue.
Sorry, Julie, what's the location of the sign?
It's Chestnut Avenue to Clayponds Avenue. It has been going on for about 2 years, 3 years, and every time I bring it up, I think there's a couple of us, we bring this issue up every time we have this meeting. And because they've made it a no right turn to go down onto the Great West Road, it is unbelievable, because they just should do a U-turn in the middle of the road. And we have a school on the estate as well.
Julie, are you saying you want them,
We want it removed. We never asked to have it put up.
Are you talking about a sign, or are you talking about the action? Like,
to have the sign removed, that's all we're asking. Just go back to the old way.
No, but when you say the sign, you mean you want the no right turn removed? Not only the sign, but the prohibition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're just going to let Catherine respond, then we've got questions from Guy and Theo, and then we'll go back to the audience.
So, sorry, just this lady said it's already been agreed. Can I ask you when that was? Sorry, when was this agreed?
Sorry, thank you. Just to follow up on that, this sign was put up during COVID, just after Occupation Lane was closed, with the intention of trying to dissuade traffic from using Chestnut Avenue as the cut through to cut the corner off from South Ealing Road to the Great West Road. The traffic that uses that has to turn right because apart from going into the estate, there's nowhere else to go turning left. And my understanding, and Julie helped me with this, we've discussed this before, is that it has been agreed that that sign does not need to be there, but the problem is physically getting rid of the sign. So cars that are coming through Chestnut Avenue to turn right into Clayponds Avenue have to do a U-turn, or they have to, disobey the sign. But this has come up at many meetings, and our understanding, I thought, was that it had been agreed that the sign would be removed. Is that right, Julie? Yeah.
I'll look into it, but Guy wants.
I mean, I know exactly why the sign's there, and it was not temporary, it was permanent. And the reason was, before we closed Occupation Lane, hundreds of cars came down Claypond Avenue every day to avoid the Ealing Road traffic lights. Hundreds. So we decided to close Occupation Lane, which was completely inappropriate for that use, and and it was put to us that there's a problem because they'll all go down, whatever it's called. Yeah. So it was the idea of Mark Frost, who was then the head of traffic, that if we put a no right at the end of that road, then that would discourage people, and they could do a U-turn, or they could go around Clayponds Avenue, whatever it is, the one that goes to the circus. And we didn't think that was a good idea, but we also didn't think it was very likely to be used by many people. I think one of the things that's happened since is that Ealing traffic lights has got much, much, much worse because we've had this sort of idiotic change in the way that the roundabout works. It complies with the law now, which it didn't before. Before it was illegal but safe and worked very well. Now I suppose it's safe, but it doesn't work at all. So that's the issue, and that's why more people are turning down Chestnut. But if we take the no right on, they'll all go down.
I'm just going to pause the discussions on this item because this isn't a matter for TfL, but we can absolutely pick it up in the open forum. Did we have any more questions from TfL? Guy, did you have a question for TfL?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First off, it's about the 65, because I wrote to Andrew Hatch back in November, had a very comprehensive response, said there's a lot of roadworks and what have you on the 65 road, and it was all about to finish, and it didn't finish, and in fact it's got worse. And our friend Mr. Dale put a picture of 3 of them on the bridge at the weekend. It needs a more fundamental reset of the 65. And the 235 has got lots of problems at the moment as well, I'm told. Although, if you look on the TfL buses sign, it's all perfect, which is normal. So that's a big issue for people north of the A4.
What was the phrase you used? It needs a serious reset, did you say?
Yeah. Yes, it needs a rethinking of the way. So, we've had this before with the 235, and that got resolved. But it hasn't. The 65 is a newer issue, but it clearly is an issue. A couple of other things that I've noted down. One is I've been trying for 10 years to get lights put underneath the A4, the M4. Catherine says it's happening, but It was happening. I was promised it 3 years ago, and it didn't happen. So, what else have I got here? And the Windmill Road traffic, that's really serious danger. It needs to have a crossing on the north side. It needs to have a different, I don't know what the solution is, but it's a dangerous place. I'll shut up now.
So I think that's the serious reset of the 65, and it's the junction of Windmill Road with the A4, the dangerous crossing, as you're saying?
There is no crossing on the north side of the A4. So if you're coming along the A4, if you're walking along the A4 on the north side, you cannot cross there. You can go 200 metres up and there's a crossing, but of course nobody does that. So, and there's lots of kids go there, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah, Councillor Lambert, I totally sympathise with you because we passed Windmill Road on the way here. And this is something that has been raised by Rob as well about Windmill Road and what we could do to improve it, particularly for pedestrians. And unfortunately, we don't actually now have a scheme, but this is something that we are going to continue to engage with Hounslow and with our sponsorship team to see if we can raise the funds for it, potentially through S106 funding, because this is something that has been raised on several occasions. But at present, we don't have a scheme, but it is something that we are continuously discussing to see how we could improve that junction. Just unfortunately, we haven't budgeted for it.
Thank you. Theo, do you have a question?
I do. I did originally have an easy question and then a little one, but actually now it's got a bit bigger because it took me longer to write it. A couple of things. Number one, I mean, it's not just a TfL problem. I think it's becoming a Brentford problem, and I hate to think it might even be a borough-wide problem. There's an awful lot more litter and dump stuff around the town these days. In fact, there's more dump stuff in Brentford now, I think, than ever I have seen it since I moved, I think, 33 years ago. Now, it happens, and there are probably a number of causes for that, but just in terms of TfL, I know when litter or dumped fly tipping is reported via Fix My Streets, and it doesn't relate to Hounslow Highways, they then refer that on to TfL, and they refer someone to London Borough of Hounslow. In both cases, the response rate from London Borough of Hounslow and from TfL is non-existent. Is there someone or some way of directly reporting litter and fly tipping to TfL so they will pay attention to it? Number one. Part B, is there a cleaning schedule, given that all along TfL roads there is so much litter hiding in the undergrowth that actually it could almost be nurturing a new species of plants. It's absolutely foul, and you know, when it gets to the middle of the summer, there'll be rats, they'll be living there, they'll be enjoying it. It'd be really useful to know what is your cleaning schedule, and would you let us all know about it? And secondly, can you tell us who to speak to when something doesn't quite work? But the original point I was going to make, though, Joe, is, I forgot, declaring an interest. I used to work for TfL, a similar job to your own. So I do understand the traumas of coming down into localities and having words with folk. The lesson I learned, and actually the one that I thought TfL had learned, is that actually sending somebody who is responsible for community engagement, an engagement specialist, is not the way you deal with the community. An engagement specialist is there to counsel the decision makers of TfL to make sure that they understand what the problem is, not you acting as a go-between. And it's really delightful having you here, but actually much more useful for you and for TfL would be if they'd sent somebody down from buses to actually talk about the buses more directly, to explain what their decision-making was more directly, to understand that actually these really nice people are slightly pissed off, in a way that allows them to be polite, but the point gets through. And I know, because you are such a polite and nice person, you won't necessarily be able to get that anger over to them. So could you perhaps say that you've guaranteed that next time TfL sends somebody down to Brentford, they'll send a decision maker, not just yourself. You'd always be welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. That's actually quite interesting in terms of getting a decision maker. We do have regular engagement with our bus planning team and Rob, isn't it? We have meetings every 3 months. Well, that is actually quite a good idea, and I will raise it and see if they're brave enough to come and speak to you good people, particularly when you have really serious concerns about some of our services that have been raised through various channels, not just through residents, but also through your council officers. In terms of dumping and fly tipping, things that are beyond the EPA of the borough, it would be fix your street, or you can also raise it with your officers that will flag it with us, and then we can put extra pressure on our asset operations team that are responsible for arranging the contractors to do all the littering and the stuff which is within our service offer. But I would be interested to know, like, parts of Brentford that this is occurring, particularly with the dumping, or is it like all over?
Why don't you pop down and I'll give you a little walk.
Sorry?
Come for a walk.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, it was the lady just there at the back.
I just wanted to address two things. Talking of the 235, I don't understand quite that the 235 seems to have serious problems, as you said. First of all, with the bollards in the north quarter, so you're at the mercy of whether they're not going to break the bollards so we can have a bus running for the next week. And also, why do they always seem to stop at Bush Corner at weekends and you can't get any further than Bush Corner?
Thank you for that. I'm not sure why they always terminating at Bush Corner, but I know that the 235 has been plagued by a series of issues. I remember Councillor Lambert writing to me about this not too long ago. And they have made some changes to the service. I think from March the 1st, when we had a new, was taken over by a new operator, they did change the timetable and put on additional services. But the comment you made about Bush Corner and that early termination, that is something I'll have to raise with the bus performance team, because I wasn't aware of that.
Well, a lot of the time, you come in I am from Hounslow on a Saturday, and they've got it signed up that they're going to North Quarter. Halfway along the route, they're saying there's been a change of plan, or whatever they call it, and we're now going to terminate at Bush Corner. So you take a gamble whether you're going to end up at North Quarter or terminate at Bush Corner. And it's not always convenient, because sometimes we're in a hurry to get home, and then you've got to wait for another bus. And the other times, I've waited at New Road, there's no signs up to say there's no 235, and you find out that the bollards are broken and there's no 235 anyway. So, and then 2 days later, there's a sign up. This bus will not run till further notice. 235 again.
235 again. No, thanks for raising. I know, like, sometimes when buses do terminate earlier, it's to make sure the service is regulated, or it could be to ensure that the drivers' working hours aren't being breached. However, that doesn't, help you if you need to get home. Do you know what I mean? So, but thanks for raising that, and I'll have to flag it with the bus performance team and get a written response passed on to one of your councillors.
Can I just quickly say also, there's a bus stop that's just been newly put in opposite Waterman's. We need a seat. There's no seat there.
Yeah.
Outside, on the McDonald's side?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of elderly people waiting there today, standing with walking sticks, and we need a seat.
Yep,
okay.
Agreed. I'm agreed on that.
Thank you.
Gentleman at the back. Marina, do you want to go in?
Hi, thank
I
you.
had raised that. Sorry, Dan. I had raised that with yourself, and I was informed that it was coming along with the timetable as well, digital timetable as well, so that should be coming fairly shortly, I should hope.
Do you know what? Unfortunately, sorry to say this, but that bus stop actually isn't owned by us. It's owned by JC Deco. And because they had to do a particular design to come for that area, they're finding it hard to source a seat for that bus stop. I know, it's random, isn't it? But I did chase it in preparation of this. So they're basically like talking to alternative suppliers to provide appropriate seating. That's why it's taken so long, because I remember when you did write, it was meant to be put in within 10 weeks, isn't it? And that was last year. So apologies to this, and Finn Campbell, one of your officers did raise this and said, look, it's still not in there. But yeah, unfortunately, they're trying to find appropriate seating that can be accommodated by the shelter. So.
Thank you. Right at the back, then Debbie, and then just here.
Thank you. I just wanted to expand on the Windmill Road north of the A4 that Guy raised. I think it was me actually that raised it with you guys. Thank you, Guy, for raising that. I've lived on Windmill Road now for about 3 years, and Windmill Road north of the A4 has a 20-mile-an-hour restriction, and on a daily basis I can see cars or vehicles in general driving up Windmill Road in excess of 50 mile an hour, which makes me feel very vulnerable when I'm walking either my 6-year-old to school or trying to put my 2-year-old daughter in the car, because Windmill Road, of course, is on-street parking, not to mention the hundreds of Gunnersbury school kids that walk up that road. So Guy put me in touch with local law enforcement. I've had absolutely zero joy of getting any kind of engagement with local law enforcement. And I guess one of the questions I want to ask is, where do I go from here? Because there will be a very serious accident.
I'm so sorry to hear that. The reason why we put 20 miles per hour on our roads is to discourage that type of behaviour and ensuring that roads are safe, particularly for young people. We have our objectives as well, like Vision Zero. We're trying to eliminate, serious accidents and that type of behaviour. In terms of enforcement, I think this is something that I'm going to have to pick up with the borough just to have a better understanding and see what we can do to support enforcement. I'm not sure, as us as a transport authority, what we could really. Yeah,
Catherine's just going to come in on that as well.
I guess from my perspective, though, sorry, just to counter that, is this is like me going around in roundabouts.
No,
I mean, there's no one taking accountability for it, and it's becoming really, really quite serious for the residents.
So a couple of things there. In terms of speed enforcement, that lies with the police. So we will pick that up, talk to the police about whether they can do some additional enforcement, whether they can do some enforcement there. I think hopefully Rob's making a note of it. Yeah, he's nodding. And Rob will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain we have some funding to look at that area as a whole in this year's budget. To look at traffic management in general. Apologies if I am wrong on that, but I thought it was one of the ones we would look at. So, yes, we'll make sure both of those things get picked up.
Thank you. Debbie.
Yeah, hi. I've managed to lay my hands on the minutes from December, and all of these things were brought up in December. Windmill Road, 65, 235, widening, lights on. So, like the gentleman said over there, it seems as though nothing is happening. It's all minuted on page 8 and 9 if anybody wants to see it.
One thing that residents get understandably frustrated about is they bring up issues at the area forum and we say, well, we hear it, but that's actually under TfL's control. And residents feel like they're being sort of fobbed off. So I've been trying for a long time to get someone from TfL here. Very glad Ijoma's here. But that's why there's the repetition of those. And I think it's right that it's really important for Ijoma to hear them and hear the weight of feeling and the impact they're having so she can take that back. But you're absolutely correct. These are not new issues.
Calmly, and we have treated her with respect, Dan, like you asked. But the feeling is, because like I said, it's been going on for months.
No, I totally understand.
Yeah.
And
years, sorry, Julie, years.
No, I understand. And, this isn't just raised by residents. This is, I get this from councillors as well. You're elected, representatives, they do push these issues. I had a meeting with a Hounslow officer, and I was like, we've discussed this all throughout the month, and unfortunately, we might not have updates. I do have an update, though, for the lighting under the M4, and that is something that is going to go ahead. But unfortunately, particularly with schemes which require money, and require funding, that's the biggest crux, isn't it? That's the biggest limitations of getting things done at a pace which would be.
But like the buses are there. It just split the route somewhere and have 2 65s running.
Yeah, particularly with the 65, that's.
Massive route anyway.
It is a long route, and I have spoken to bus performance saying why can't? But what I will do is raise it again and say, look, I've been to an area forum, and this is having a horrible impact on people's everyday lives, particularly when we're encouraging people to use the bus service. And if it's not working effectively, how can the public be entrusted? How can they have faith in our services? But particularly with the 65, I will have to raise it yet again and say, even though they have told me that, they've given me the recent figures, and it is apparently working. Quite good, but that's clearly not the case by speaking to you all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just because we're tight on time, if you've got another question, if you've got a question for TfL, could you just raise your hand? So we've got 1, 2, 3. Did you have one for TfL? Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3. So hand up again for TfL question. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We're going to take them 2 at a time. So if we do this one and then this one, and then we'll come to you two.
Thank you. Stephen Smith. The reason I am raising the question is not because it's been raised before, because it's been raised before by Guy and the gentleman behind me, but rather to introduce another concept, and it is about the Windmill Road junction with the Great West. So I, likewise, a father of an 8-year-old child, and there is a small faith-based school just on the north side called Our Lady in St. John's, which is home to around 300 primary school children. And each morning my 8-year-old plays a game, which is let's see what the timing is today for the traffic lights. And the reason why I'm introducing a new idea to the panel is not because of the traffic lights, because I think that has been raised, but the fact that it's nice that you're here, Jonah, but this is a multi-agency issue. So there's a strategic road network issue, which is responsible by TfL. There's a planning committee issue to do with the new hospital and residential complex on the corner. There is a police matter, which we've raised before, but there's also a lamppost that is, very unfortunately, because of planning permission, just slightly to the side of the property, and so there is a red barrier that is stopping safe pedestrian access. And as buses come around the corner, with no disrespect to the buses because they're not speeding, but simply by the size of the bus and the size of the junction, it's not a safe crossing. So the fact that my son, who's 8, almost jokes about it, for me and other parents who are navigating that space, it's actually, as the gentleman said behind, quite scary and is a regular conversation. But my point here today is it's multi-agency. If we are all in a room at the same time, like we are tonight, I wonder whether that conversation can start.
Thank you. And then Paul.
Yeah, hello. My query is about the fear of getting stranded somewhere, basically. For people who are vulnerable, if you go on a bus journey and then before you go home, you find out the bus stop is out of action. That is a very real. Well, it's an inconvenience, would be to anyone, but for people who struggle with going places, it's a very real challenge. So my suggestion is, can TfL please put in system of email notifications for specific areas of London, so that when planned bus stop closures are due, that those are communicated. I mean, I previously had TfL emails covering the whole of the region. The overwhelming majority were no concern to me, and I either unsubscribed or they just stopped sending them.
So, Paul,
either way. So basically, yeah. So if I know that sometimes there's emergency situations where bus stops have to be closed, but when it's planned works, please put in place a system to let people know.
And you mean geographic specific,
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
could sign up
yes,
to like a
yes,
Brentford.
Yes.
We do have a method of notifying customers that are on our database when these roadworks, or if we do have short notice changes to our services. We also have TfL on the Go app, we have Journey Planner, but you know, that's a good point to raise, that obviously not everybody's getting the information in the best way possible, and which could vary depending on their needs. So thanks for raising that. But I will encourage like all customers to ensure that they do check their journeys before they leave.
Thank you, Gemma. So if we can keep the questions as brief as possible, we'll take one here and one here. This question's been dropped. That makes things quicker. Thank you.
I'd like to know who's responsible for bus stops in the borough. Is it local council or TfL?
It's TfL.
TfL. Okay. Can we ask a route map on bus stop N, please? There is none.
So route map on bus stop N on the Boston Manor Road.
Yeah, it shows what
A
time
map.
bus is coming. No, what time bus coming?
Oh,
Yes.
how far?
Yeah.
2 minutes, 3 minutes?
Yes, because opposite there is Ealing, bus stop U, they have it, which is very good.
So bus stop U has it, bus stop N doesn't?
No.
Okay, can you take that away, Gemma?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, I think that is all we have time for on TfL. Gemma, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Being so kind and accommodating, it's very hospitable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And from bus stops to weeds, we now have Tim Hurley from Hounslow Highways, who is going to talk about the weeding. I know many residents feel very strongly about weeds, so great to have Tim here to explain what's going to happen. He's a very handsome man, did you say? Oh, nice man. Yes, he is a very nice.
Questions to the lady at the front.
That's good.
Yeah. Hello. Oh, there you go. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today on what is quite a emotive topic, because we've all had to live with weeds for the last 5 years or so. So, Hounslow Highways are responsible for the cleansing of all of the adopted roads in London Borough of Hounslow. That includes the adopted roads that are also TfL, just to answer something that was raised earlier. So, under the Environmental Protection Act, Hounslow Highways act as the street cleansing authority, so we clean the TfL roads as well. Regarding weeds, so we are now in that season where we're starting to see weeds growing because the cold weather's gone down and the warm weather's coming up. And the question is what we'll be doing this year. So just to give you a little bit of history, Hounslow have probably, well, they are the only borough other than I think Hammersmith and Lambeth in the City of London, actually, so that's a few, that have not used glyphosate on residential roads. We still use glyphosate, and I have always used glyphosate for the treatment of aggressive weeds, such as giant hogweed and Japanese knotweed, but generally we stopped the spraying of glyphosate in 2019. This was in response to the climate emergency, and I think some gathering news around glyphosate and its impacts upon biodiversity and potentially harm to human health, which I think have now been disregarded. But biodiversity, I think, was the big reason we were going for it. We knew at the time that glyphosate was facing an issue of license renewal in, I think, 2022, which was then actually cancelled and extended when we went through Brexit. But at the time, the idea was, well, glyphosate's probably going to be banned in residential streets, so let's get ahead of it and let's try and be glyphosate-free, which we're very proud to do, and we had full support of the council. It was a partnership decision, It did mean that we had to go with other treatment options. So manual treatment has been the general method. So putting around 50 to 60 operatives on the street between the months of May to October to essentially hoe the weeds out, pull them, sweep them, try and reduce weed regrowth. I think we've done our best with that, but I think we also know that it isn't as effective as we'd like it to be. To sweep and hoe a road takes quite a long time. Depending upon the road, it can take actually a day or even 2 days for one crew to get around it, so it means that the weeds are actually growing more. That also means that they're seeding more, and then there's more germination of seeds. So we see roads 5 years ago may have had 5% weed coverage on it. Generally, you're now looking 30, 40%. A lot of those weeds are quite small, but they're still very noticeable. So as we go into this year, we're looking at all options. The council had I think there was a cabinet paper in February, which explored the option using glyphosate again this year. We haven't reached a final decision on what the method will be. It is likely that glyphosate will be part of that treatment methodology. And I think now it's understanding, well, if we do use it, where would we target it to minimize the usage of glyphosate? But then how would we also make sure that we have visible treatment on the ground? Glyphosate needs to be applied as the weeds are growing. So in a way, it's going to get worse because you need the weeds to grow before you can apply the glyphosate. And then that will only kill the weed, it won't remove it. So at the moment, we're exploring best way of doing that. What would be the best way of applying glyphosate? Which would be the roads to use it on? The biggest issue to weed removal over the last 5 years has been trying to do it in an urban environment where around 70% of people park their cars on the street. So it's difficult to get to those weeds as we go through it. We have explored many other options, and I actually had a meeting for 2 hours today on 20 alternative treatments to glyphosate, which we're still exploring. We're not dismissing the idea that there is something out there. There is still legislation amendments suggesting that glyphosate could be reduced in its use within the UK and within other countries in Europe. So I think exploring alternative treatments is still something that we should be doing. And my parent company, Vinci, are currently doing that and looking at all options that could be applied. Some of it's already applied in agriculture and seeing if we could use that in an urban environment. So I guess to answer the point about what is the plan for this year, we're still working through it. It will definitely involve more resource. It will probably involve at least 3 gangs of 6 operatives, much like previous years, undertaking a planned weed removal, probably supplemented by gangs with backpack sprayers and possibly quad bikes, applying 1 to 2 treatment cycles this year.
Thank you, Tim. And could you also just touch on the reactive maintenance if the weeds are getting out of control, and the difference between that and the planned maintenance, and if there is weeds out of control, how can residents get in touch? How can they report it and have it addressed? Okay, so going back over the previous years, the planned maintenance would have been anything up to 5 teams of 3 to 4 operatives, either dropped off in a minibus with appropriate materials or in a cage van, targeting, I think it was circa 400 roads. So we'd identify those roads from previous complaints and from intelligence from our supervisors, from stewards, from council officers, to look at roads which we know had a weed treatment problem. So those roads, for example, could have older ASP paving flags where a lot of the weeds would come up in between them. There's less likely to be roads that we've treated through the renewal program between 2013 and 2018 where we may have asphalted the whole footway because there would have been less opportunity for the weeds to grow through. So the plan gangs will be going doing that. On top of that, there are 18 dedicated routes dealing with the town centres, for example, Brentford High Street, Hounslow High Street, Feltham High Street, amongst others, where there is generally a daily attendance. So when somebody was having a daily attendance, it would need less additional plan maintenance because there was sufficient coverage. And then we have the war-based crews that do the 2 weekly cleanse, so they would be helping to tackle it as well. But as I said, the weeds grow quicker than we can deal with them, so we would then get inquiries coming through, so we had additional reactive gangs that if we had a complaint come through, a steward would go and attend and understand if that road needed to be prioritised, either being brought forward on the programme, if it was on the programme, or by another crew going to attend it. Partly because, for example, the weeds could be obstructive on the footway and cause a trip hazard. Brilliant, thank you. We had a question at the back from Julie.
Just a quick thing. you're talking about town centres. A lot of people live on council estates. So you've got highways and housing. And the thing is, where we live, we've got no man's land because nobody wants to touch it because housing says it's theirs and Lambton says it's not theirs. We could sit in no man's land. We might as well live in Greenwich. But the thing is, yet again, you're talking about town centres. There are roads where people live. We've got very high curbs up around Claypons. You can't see between the weeds and the curbs, and people have fallen off them because they're so high. So you're saying you're doing the normal ones. When are you going to get back to the rest of the borough? I know you can't do it all in one go, but you can't keep going back to the same priority areas. You've got to go to areas that aren't priority.
If I may. So if we talk about the town centres, it's only 18 of our operatives. During the peak weeding season, we'll have around 110 to 120 operatives. So majority of those operatives are dealing with residential roads. So there is the planned programme, but there's also other roads that come up through inquiries. There is often an issue with what we call the no man's land, where you'll put something, for example, through Fix My Street, ask Hounslow Highways to deal with it, and you've got a response saying, well, that's been passed on to the appropriate department of the council. Because we have a contract, and the contract is very clear about the road network that you pay us to maintain. We must focus on what our contract says we should do, because when we don't do that, we do something else, we're actually not doing what the residents are paying us for. So we do try and ensure that if something comes to us and it's not for us, it does go to the right department, and we do copy in the residents so that they know. But we do always encourage people to use Fix My Street. A lot of our intelligence on where we target those prioritised roads are from what people tell us. The residents are the ones that know their area better than we do, so they're probably the best source of information about understanding where we should be sending our resources.
Thank you. Then Bob down here. Just do you want to repeat the question in the microphone?
Could I ask why you're not using rock salt instead of chemicals?
Okay, so rock salt is actually one of the options I looked at earlier today. And there are areas we know that are using a salt solution, and there is an alternative kind of saline solution that could be used. Cost would be part of it. Application method would be another. Also, the long-term degradation on the asset from applying too much salt. So salt can have a negative effect upon our highway infrastructure. The solution that we're looking for, if it isn't a glyphosate or a chemical-based solution, is something that has to be scalable in an urban environment with heavy obstructions of parked cars. And salt at the moment just isn't one we've looked at because of the application and the cost.
Rock salt is the most effective way of killing weeds. And as for damaging the road surface, I can't see that. You apply it during the winter for ice, don't you, on the motorways? So I really can't understand it. It must be cheaper than using chemicals.
So there are various options that were costed, and salt, when I looked at it, didn't appear to be something that was economically viable. So we continue to look at them. So there are solutions that we looked at and dismissed 2-3 years ago, who actually have come back to us because the manufacturers of those solutions have taken on board the advice that we and other authorities are giving them. So we'll review those options again. And salt is one of those that is under review.
Thank you. And the gentleman here, and then we've got one at the back, one here.
Thank you. Stephen again. This is the second forum I've come along to. I've been a resident here for 10 years, so I'm grateful for the fact that these panels are put forward. And usually in forums like this, and I am as much part of this observation, we tend to put forward issues of general complaint or general concern. But seeing as Tim is here, having lived in other boroughs, I actually think you do a really good job with green spaces in terms of pruning trees, getting rid of weeds, and actually getting rid of graffiti. So I think you've done a really good job. However, however,
we could pause for a clap there, and there you go.
But only because you're sat there, you did use the word intelligence before, and I don't doubt that you're using a lot of data in order to crunch, in order to make your decisions. I came home this evening, and I'm sure that this will come up again, to find a sign up on the lamppost, EV electric points. And on Hamilton Road, there were 6 such bays without any intelligence applied to that. If we have other roads like Clifton, not that I wish to put that evil onto Clifton Road, but those 6 bays have now been reduced to 3, and the sign says that's going to be for another 18 months. Hamilton Road is arguably a very congested space.
Sorry, can I get just bring it to a question?
So my question is, what intelligence is being used or applied when EV bays are being thought through? Because they are not consulted upon, they're simply given. So where is the intelligence?
I think that's, please bring that back up in the open forum, but I don't think, unless Tim, you wanted to answer that, but it's not within your remit, is it?
I have some knowledge, if that helps. So there are circa, I think, 350 EV parking bays in the borough, which have been installed by 2 different manufacturers. And the authority has been putting through a, call it aggressive in a good way, plan to increase EV coverage across Hounslow. I don't know all of the intents to use, but I do know that they've been looking at essentially gaps within the network infrastructure. They've been looking at lamp column locations as well, because most of the EV chargers will be coming from a lamp column, so low voltage supplies where a resident can park nearby overnight. And sufficient quantity so that it won't be a question of 1 or 2 residents fighting over one bay in that road. I think if you did want more detail, it'd be good to put a question through to the council through their, not their complaints, but their inquiries process, and they can probably answer that for you.
Catherine's actually going to come in on this.
Yeah, so Tim's right. So what happened in the past in terms of the installation of EV charge points was that it was done upon request from residents who had either purchased or were intending to purchase an electric vehicle, and that is why they've ended up, not in a nice even spread across the borough, but there's clusters in some points, other places don't have many, and that was fine when there were not that many people who had electric vehicles and needed those charging points. What we are now doing is planning for the future, and ever closer it becomes as more and more people will be purchasing electric vehicles and making that change from using petrol and diesel vehicles towards using electric vehicles. So we have procured and are in the process of procuring further charge point operators to install more EV charge points across the borough, and we will be looking for a much more even spread. So certain places like Hamilton Road had ended up with quite a few bunched together, and I know we had some queries about that, and subsequently removed not the charging points themselves, but some of the mandatory charging bays because it was restricting on parking that was available for that road. As the new charge points are rolled out, there will be a lot more that will have an effect. I expect to receive more complaints about that, but also if we don't roll them out, we get complaints as well, and we have to make sure that we are making that provision, not just for what the demand is now, but for what we expect it to be.
Thank
respondents, but we didn't have any information back. That's why I asked the question. I asked the question because I'm so sorry. I was a right to reply. I was one of 18 respondents off that road, but no one replied. Going back to your point, no one replied. I asked, as did 17 others. That's all I was asking. Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand.
Can you just repeat that?
So when the notices were first presented, roughly 12 months ago, I was one of 18 separate households who put in information to the council, and I asked certain questions. It wasn't a complaint. We do need to move to a more sustainable environment. But my questions were really the one I've just applied just now, on what intelligence. Of course, residents have the opportunity to request, but they also have an opportunity to challenge and to question. But the fact that I had no information sent back to me, as did 17 other residents, we found that a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, much more recently, we have had correspondence from a number of residents in your road who have been responded to, and that resulted in the removal of some of those bays. So I do apologise that you didn't receive a response when you put in your queries.
Thank you. Lady at the back.
Hi, my name is Mel. So I have a comment for the next forum, but Tim, I have a question for you. So, Catherine, you talked about, and the gentleman brought up the EV points. We talked about procurement and sustainability. Perhaps next time, let's see how that fits in with the West London Alliance's low carbon procurement, maybe the sustainability strategy. Tim, I'm going to gently bring the conversation back to weeds. You talked about invasive species. There's a lot of buddleia, that's the butterfly bush around the St. Paul's Conservation Area, Waterman Centre, walking through here to Brentford Station. It's affecting the properties and costing us thousands to sort of repair when
where's the buddleia located?
So the St. Paul's Conservation Area, typically Albany Road, it's along Waterman Centre, walking from here towards Brentford Station, it's just multiplying, and then it's affecting those conservation properties. Is something being done around that? If you could expand on that, thank you.
So one of the things I probably didn't mention about the need for maybe reviewing, not just using a manual treatment method, is the impact that weeds can have upon the highway infrastructure. And buddleia is specifically one of those. It's a very woody weed, it's not as easy to get, and also if you cut it off, it can grow back even stronger. So glyphosate is one of the treatment options for that. Again, if there is a location where you feel that the weeds can't wait the program, or it's not on the program, which is always on the website, then put it through Fix My Street and we'll go and attend to it.
Thank you. And then there's two questions here.
Hello, thank you. Does the council calculate the additional cost of manual removal of weeds if you've got 120 people doing it as compared to spraying? Because glyphosate is very cheap. Rock salt's expensive, it kills trees. You could be saving millions, literally, if you spray glyphosate. You're one of 3 boroughs that doesn't in London. That should probably tell you something, surely.
Yes, I spend an inordinate amount of my time looking at costs on everything that we do. I think when we decided not to use glyphosate, it was a decision where we say, okay, what's the best way of doing it now? We did bring in other options like foam stream, etc., but manual removal seemed to be okay. I think as the years have gone on, as that germination effect has increased year on year, the volume of weeds that we're having to remove is becoming harder. So the resource you're putting in to have to do that has become even higher, and it's a cost that Hounslow Highways has been bearing with support from the local authority. And I think that's where we're at this point, about how many people can you put on it, and then next year it's the same again. So we have looked at costs of manual removal. We have also looked at the impacts on any other treatment about, for example, using something that will require a diesel generator to create hot water, so what the environmental impact will be of that as well. The balance has been okay in terms of using operatives. We did essentially take the budget we used to spend on glyphosate and put that into people. Year on year, the number of people that was needed has been higher, which is why I think we're now at a point about, do we need something to help maybe abate and keep control of the weeds, and then still use the people on the ground to their maximum effect.
Then there's a question just on your left. Very quick.
I'm sure that if you went to a big public service contractor and said, what's your square metre rate for glyphosate application as opposed to manual removal of weeds, it would be hugely more expensive. Plus, the thing about manual removal of weeds is you're not removing the roots, and the roots will be causing damage to the infrastructure.
Thank you. We're running really tight on time. There's still a number of people that haven't spoken to you. Just to your left, thank you.
I hope just a quick question. I know that not using glyphosate is obviously giving a problem with additional weeds. One of the things certainly also I think increased it over the last couple of years, but maybe not last year, was no mow May. Have we abandoned that now?
So No Mo May, there was the first year of No Mo May,
Yes.
where I think we increased the number of verges that we didn't cut. I think the perception from residents was that we were doing it to save money, which wasn't the case. So over the last 2 years, we've reduced it down to 36 wildflower sites where we do a frame cut, just to so residents know that we are doing something there, otherwise it looks unkempt. So No Mo May is still present, and I think we encourage residents to do No Mo May for biodiversity, because it has a very positive impact on biodiversity, there's no doubt, but it is at controlled sites, and that's 36 of them.
No, I do practice No Mo May.
Thank you. We have a
June,
question
July,
from
August,
Wendy.
September.
Hi, I just want to say that I've got quite grave concerns about glyphosate. I'm sorry to have to put a damper on the glyphosate party, but I don't think the risk to human health has been debunked, and also I don't think that it's only 2 London boroughs that don't use it. I think many don't, and some really limit it just to very invasive plants such as the Japanese knotweed or bamboo. So, and I think the very fact that you've said that when it's used with caution, and that illustrates the fact that it's not deemed to be entirely safe, and it's not good for the environment either, for nature. So I would actually urge the council to think more seriously before putting cost to the forefront above health and environmental concerns.
Glyphosate is a chemical, so there is an element where you have to be careful about how you use it. I think what we're trying to do at the moment is say we need to get the balance right between maintaining the highway infrastructure, keeping safe footways, and controlling weed growth as we go forward. I'm not really concerned about weed growth this year. I'm concerned about weed growth next year. So I think whatever we do now has to have a positive effect next year. I don't think anyone's saying that we're going to be spraying glyphosate all over the borough, or, like we've given up on it. We haven't. Housewell Highways and the council and my parent company Vinci are working actually quite tirelessly to look at alternative options, because when someone finds that magic wand, everybody will want it, but someone has to be brave enough to go ahead and try and find it, which is what we're doing. But we do have to consider the now. I think the now is, can we keep spending money putting operatives on the ground knowing that next year it will make it even worse?
Thank you. The gentleman here.
Tim Henderson, do you have any views on the plans that Brighton and Hove have introduced, who are also having a U-turn on glyphosate use, but are offering residents the option to volunteer to clean the weeds in their streets and not have glyphosate used?
I think we've always encouraged resident participation. And I think Lambeth did something similar, where they allowed residents to opt out of glyphosate in their street, because some streets liked it. I guess the thing with that is, how do you get a majority vote within the street? If it was my choice, I'd hand everyone a broom and a hoe as they leave today, and they can crack on. We are an organisation of 200 employees. There are circa 288,000 residents in the borough. So any resident participation in helping maintain their bit of the network, we would fully support.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question for Tim on weeding? In that case, thank you, Tim, very much for coming and your comprehensive presentation. So now, if I can successfully unlock my phone, I have an update of sorts on the survey regarding the Brentford Fountain Leisure Centre. So the survey ran from the sort of beginning of November last year to the end of January this year. We had 826 responses, which for a council survey is elite tier. And that ranged from sort of regular users through to people who'd not used it in the last year. And then also to sort of augment that, surveys, focus groups were carried out with community groups, and these focused on young people, disabled people, and lower income areas. So what do people most like about the leisure centre now? People like that it's convenient, it's accessible. This featured in over a third of responses. Unsurprisingly, people liked its swimming facilities. That was very popular. The fact that it's child and family friendly, it's affordable, And other responses highlighted the centre's wide range of facilities, the gym, the staff, and the class instructors. What did people not like? The majority of responses to this question related to the condition of the building and its facilities. Lack of cleanliness was in a third of all responses, as was its tired, old and outdated character. The general condition, and in some cases the design of the changing areas. A quarter of respondents said the changing areas were amongst the features that they liked the least. Also, people talked about the poor state of repair. What do people most want to see from a new centre on the site? Retained or improved swimming facilities. That was obviously very popular, and people talked about the combination of swimming facilities that catered for both children and adults. People want to see clean and well-maintained facilities. They want to see retained or improved gym facilities. And more than 1 in 10 people said they want better changing areas. Also retained or improved range of classes, and a commitment to continue to make this a child and family-friendly leisure centre. So we can see that people feel very strongly about the important role that the leisure centre plays in the community, its convenience and the access to it. Much that people don't like about the centre today relates to the physical condition of the facilities, the cleanliness, outdatedness, poor state of repair. And then when asked to envisage a replacement leisure centre, people tend to prioritise replicating or reinstating the main elements of the existing centre, with improvements to address the shortcomings they see in the quality and the state of the facilities now. Overall responses to this question paint a picture of a leisure centre that is child and family friendly, affordable and accessible, with facilities that give it a broad appeal to different ages and interests. There's going to be more coming out about this survey, and I believe it's got to go to Cabinet. So once it does that, then we'll have a lot more published on it. And the survey process is going to be ongoing. That's not the end of it. There'll be lots more to come back on it. I don't have much more information than what I've given on that, but if there are any questions, we'll do our best to take them. Yes, we've got a question here.
Short and sweet question. Is there an SLA for Lambton Leisure?
An SLA?
Service level agreement. I ask because before the Twitter suddenly erupted over the leisure centre, I'd only been a few times. I now am able to take my 8-year-old to swim club, and as a consequence, I also joined the gym, the swim. The website consistently gives the wrong timetable information. When you call up, it turns out that the people on the front desk switch the phone off because it interferes with the tannoy system. And I raised this with the general manager at the centre because I couldn't get through to Lambton Leisure themselves. And I understand that the general manager at the centre is a Lambton Leisure employee as opposed to other employees. And the arms were in different directions, blaming different parts of the system. So
yeah,
my point is there a service level agreement?
Well, there's a contract, and they are answerable to us. So what I would say is any issues that you have, please raise it with any of the local councillors, and we'll chase it up on your behalf.
And then the one point for the forum is if there's a time and motion study done on the centre at some point, it may be a incorrect level of wanting to participate as opposed to people who are just fed up and have given up. That's my point.
Thank you. If we've got no more questions on this, and as we are quite tight on, we got one from Martin. Just wait for the mic if you would. Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously the consultation's been underway and you've got results of that. What's happened to the feasibility study?
I don't have information on that, but drop me an email and I'll request it on your behalf. Guy, did you want to do a ward update for Brentford West?
Sorry?
Did you want to do a ward update for Brentford West?
I do, thank you.
Please go ahead.
Being deaf, I heard that I was called earlier, so I called myself now. Some good news. Last week I went to what used to be the GSK sports ground, just off Swinkham Avenue. It's been out of use for, I think, several years. And we knew that it had been passed by GSK to the Sports Grounds Trust or something. And I discovered a few months ago that it's been given, or it's being leased by them to Middlesex Cricket Club. And it's going to become the centre for women's cricket in all of Middlesex. And I went there last week, had a look at it. They've dug up the whole street, the whole field, because it wasn't suitable for high-class cricket. They've redone it. They say it's not finished, and you can tell it's not perfect. But they're hoping to start it with some kind of festival, probably in July or August, and it will become a big attraction for female cricket players. So that's I'm really pleased about that. I'm excited that Brentford has got this this recognition. More dubious news. Junction 2 is coming back. I think it's in July. Junction 2 it's very good in terms of young people who like to go and watch music in Boston Manor Park, but it's not happy. Other people are unhappy about it. Although I must say, the last 2 years it's run, I haven't had a single complaint. But we do lose a chunk of the park for a few weeks actually. That what they are doing this year, they're making sure that there is still a way down from the main gate to the canal and the bridge across it. The other thing, I just wanted to say something about the Potting Shed cafe in Boston Manor Park. It's absolutely packed. It's the cheapest coffee in Brentford, and it's all very good, and they have really good stuff there, and they have lots of good products as well that they sell. We've had filming in mainly Brook Road South recently. That has been very upsetting for some people there because it was very poorly communicated. I'm upset about it because if you're going to have filming there, you're going to lose parking temporarily. That can be handled better, and it will be less of an issue. The compensation for that was very meagre, and actually I'm quite excited by having a feature film being largely filmed in Brentford, but we don't even know. I didn't know about it. The people in the cabinet didn't know about it before these trucks turned up. Charlton House, as I'm sure you know, is about to be demolished. I thought it would all have started by now, but it hasn't. Don't know quite when it is. All the people who live there have been rehoused. They were all council or housing association tenants. A lot of them are in what's known as Block D, or sometimes it now is called a Shakespearean name, which I've forgotten, on Brentford High Street. It's lovely. They're lovely flats. I had a look at them before they were taken. The businesses in Charlton, most of them have ceased for one reason or another. They were offered compensation to end their lease early, and some of them took that. Others didn't. And one of the things that I'm excited about at the moment is trying to get them actually installed on the high street. So there's one of them, Café Capri, who you might remember, on the high street.
Guy, can I just ask you if you can just bring it to a bit of a close, as we haven't actually entered the open forum yet, and we're running out of time. If you could just...
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm very keen to get people into the what's called Block D, and I'm told that there are 11 people queuing up to do it, but I don't know who they are. There's about 4 out of Charlton House who are keen to get there, and they can't get in yet. Paul Keane, did you mention Paul Keane? Team Keane?
I'm afraid I didn't. That was a bit of an omission on my part. I can give a quick update because obviously we did have some, I know you're very much interested as well and also live in the area.
If we can do this as quickly as possible.
I will, yeah. So I know a lot of people are very interested in Team Keane and the Brentford Boat Club and the facility that they have at Ferry Quays, near where Guy lives. So there have been several meetings between various members of Brentford Boat Club and the council. I attended one. I know they've also met with Councillor Tom Bruce. There's a site visit on Monday to look at what improvements can be made to that site in the short term, what council funding might be available for that, and then discussions on the longer term prospects for that site are very much ongoing.
Okay, I am going to have to move on to the area of the open forum now, because there's only 20 minutes left. So start off with a question right at the back.
Hi there, Windmill Road again. I've seen a real deterioration in the time I've lived in Windmill Road. It's been 3 years now, in parking. I think everyone who lives around that area, this is north of the A4 now, I think everyone around that area, as well as the Brentford surrounding roads, would agree with me, just parking's just really not sufficient.
Sorry, could you bring it to a question? Just
yeah, sure. I've also observed the introduction of around 10 to 12 disabled bays. Now, of course, I'm not disputing the necessity for the disabled bays, but it's making an impossible situation even worse. So my question is there a vision for parking around this area? If so, what is it? If not, why not? And can we have one?
Sorry, is there a provision for...
Is there a vision for the parking in and around this area, strategy to improve parking around this area? And if so, what is it?
When you say improve, do you mean increase the number of spaces, or do you mean something different?
Yeah, make parking more available within that area.
For residents?
For residents, correct.
I mean, that's very much restricted by the length of the streets and what space is naturally available there. I don't know if do you have residents parking there already?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not working for you, it may be a case of, I mean, we can review the hours, but...
I guess that's my point, right? I mean, presumably, I'm not the only one with this situation, right? I think a lot of people share my concern. So I guess what I'm saying is, currently it's not working. So what are you doing? What is your strategy to help us?
So what we can't do is create more space, really.
I understand. Yeah. I understand that. I think what I'm asking you, I'm not asking you to create space. I know you can't do that. What I am asking is the current arrangement that we have, whether it be the parking permits that we have, whether it be the hours of anyone can park within the hours.
I think
that's my point.
The best way forward on this is for you to take it up with your ward councillors and raise that as caseworks yourself. I understand that's an important issue.
Get a petition together, 10 signatures, and you can review the hours of the CPZ.
Lady here.
Thank you, Joanna Hill. We have some questions about public access to Brentford Dock. Do you want to ask the first one?
Yes. There's
Dock Road is a public highway. It's been obstructed for 4 years. When is the council going to take action to remove the obstruction?
I mean, I can answer that. So, you're correct, it is public highway. There's no right for vehicles to pass over it, but there's still the right for people to pass over by foot. Currently, that's not obstructed. I mean, there's a gate, but it opens.
The fact that it is not open, that it is open,
so
that it is partially obstructed, is an obstruction.
Okay, so the council have been to have a look. Council officers have been to have a look.
I appreciate that.
And so currently we consider there isn't an obstruction.
Well,
if there was to be an obstruction, then we would take action.
Can I just make one point? The fact that that people can walk through it does not mean that there is not an obstruction. The highway is obstructed.
So I think the important thing is that people can still walk through it.
I think the important thing is that the highway is obstructed and you have a statutory duty to remove it.
Well, we have taken legal advice on that.
May we see it?
Pardon?
May we see the legal advice?
I expect so, yes, I can make inquiries.
Okay.
So I have got some more questions about the definitive map.
Quick as possible if you can.
Yes, we've submitted a definitive map modification order to recognise a public footpath around Brentford Dock on the 16th of December 2024. What is the decision-making process? Because I'm aware the council has not dealt with one of these before. And will it go to committee? How will that decision be made, please?
Sure. So I've got a formal answer for officers. Thank you for submitting in advance. So the council has 12 months in which to review the submitted evidence and decide whether this should be accepted and then to progress the order. We need to follow the legal process in order to ensure there can be no challenges to it. Under the council's constitution, the decision would either be made by the relevant executive director or referred by them to the appropriate regulatory committee, e.g. planning committee or full council. And the council doesn't have a dedicated rights of way officer. That's something you more find in rural councils. So the application we process as quickly as we're able to do, but there's currently no timescale for a decision to be made.
Okay. And also, what is the council doing to find the documents, the missing documents, which the council would have signed about the transfer of agreement and the rights for public access? Because that's crucial information that is missing from the evidence base.
Bill, have you got an answer on this?
I can't possibly read all this out. We'll never get away, but I am acquiring a snowballing number of documents. Unfortunately, one of the legal officers who was crucial to this is no longer here, so he can't be, or no longer working for the council and can't be asked, but we are gathering them. I've got some printed ones here if you wanted to take them away, but it's probably better. I've got your email address from the original question, and as they come in, most of them are in. As they come in, I can bundle them up and email them to you.
Thank you. We must move on. Very quickly, if you can, the lady in the front, then it was Mel, and it was Bob.
Thank you. I'm worried about the GSK building. I heard from 3 different people they're going to do it up, rehouse the asylum seekers.
No, there's no plans for asylum seekers to the GSK building. Mel.
Okay. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Oh, thank you. I'll be quick. I actually wrote in my 2 questions, so I'll do the second one first because it's easy. So what plans, if any, do the council have in Brentford to mark VE Day, which is my first question. Second question is that last October or September, we had a very interesting health debate at one of the forum meetings, of which I asked some very complicated questions about the site at Brentford Health Centre in Boston Manor Road, to which I have not had a satisfactory reply. The question is actually quite simple because it was all worked out long since. Can you give me any, or give the audience more to the point, any update at all as to the Brentford Health Centre site becoming a primary care hub, which was earmarked long since, and the money was actually found, and by so doing it would actually preserve the life of the site of the old Brentford Cottage Hospital, which cannot be sold off for anything else other than health use.
Sorry, which can't be sold off for anything else?
The old Brentford Cottage Hospital, which became Brentford Lodge, which is now being housed by, I think it's one of the mental health groups. But there is a covenant which prevents that site being sold off for anything else other than health use.
So I've got a partial answer here, but it's to be honest, it's the emails that you've already had, and I think actually we need to do a bit more drilling down. So if it's all right with you, Mel, we'll take that offline and keep talking that through.
If you would, and if you wish to talk to me, because I think these people here have a right to know what's going to happen. Sorry, is that the mic come back?
Yes.
Don't do that to me. Sorry, folks.
Okay. Right.
I think the folk have a right to know, because this was all planned out.
Well, I'll give the response so far publicly, or Bill will.
The response to the question, which Mr. Collins has already received, but the rest of you haven't, comes from Kelly O'Neill, who asked for some clarification on this, which is still ongoing, I believe. She's not had it. Kelly has said there is now a new Chiswick Health Centre, which will be a health and wellbeing centre providing a range of health and care services. For Brentford, funding has not been secured to provide a new health and wellbeing centre on the current Brentford Health Centre site, although this is listed as the local Hounslow NHS priority, which the North West London NHS Estates team are evaluating against all other North West London priorities. There is already the Heart of Hounslow, which provides a range of health and care services. Similarly, the Meadows provides a range of services. There are no plans at this time to develop a specific hub at West Middlesex, although one of the GP practices has indicated a desire to move to a hospital site location, but this would be in the long term. Planning would be dependent upon the wider West Middlesex hospital site development plan.
Okay, a question from Bob. Quick, got a microphone for Bob, please? Oh.
Right, can I just ask for some common sense? I'm in B&N, CPZ, which is Enfield Road. The other half of that is in Chalice Road. And you people put an LTN in between us. So when we come home of a night time and there's no parking in our part of B&N, we have to go out onto Windmill Road and poison them people out there in the traffic jam, or we have to go down onto the A4 and all the way round to get back into Chalice Road in order to park. So surely anybody with half a brain takes away that LTN and puts it at one end and says residents can enter, because we know they're residents, because we stick tickets on their cards, because we've got a database. So what we do is we say, if that database says they're a resident, they don't get a ticket, and it cuts down on the pollution, and it cuts down on the traffic jams. So could we look at that?
Thank you. Yeah, Guy, can you pick that up? Is that your word? Okay. We'll fill you in later. So, as Julie.
Mine's just a bit of a point of information. Nice, I'm not moaning. The lady in the front who was talking about GSK, today at Clayponds we have got a community centre, if Max would like to come and visit. We had these brilliant newspapers. They're like a proper, everything you would need to know about what is going on at GSK. It is fantastic. You cannot ask. Every question you can imagine has been asked.
Thank you very much, Julie. Then, the lady over here.
Thank you. I come along from Brentford Dock to the High Street, and then cross over at Goddard's. I cross with trepidation because cyclists are constantly going through the red lights. My light is on green for pedestrian. Also, when you see young children and mothers with prams, we don't know whether to cross because of the bikes coming rushing past us. What can we do? Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I can raise that issue with the police if for enforcement. If I'm not aware of a big problem there, but if there is one, then that's something we can ask them to look at.
Thank you. Now, lady over there. And if there's anyone else who's got a question that they wanted to ask, could you just indicate? One here. Any others? Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, what plans do you have in place for the police station? Please tell me no more flats.
The police station?
You've got enough flats.
The police station?
Yes, the old police station.
The plan is to build flats on it.
No more flats.
And a state-of-the-art new art centre underneath.
Is that true?
Yes, I'm not lying to you.
Oh, right, so you are going to have an art centre?
Yes.
With more flats?
Yes.
And what's happening with the Waterman's site?
That's to be developed into...
More flats?
Sorry, Mel pointed out I didn't answer his question. He had a question on VE Day. I don't know what the specific plans are to celebrate it. I'm sure there will be some, and I'm sure councillors will be involved. Was there a lady there? Yeah.
Hi, yeah. Well, I think that lady sort of answered my question. It was about the Watermans. I was just saying, what's in replacement and when is it going to happen?
So, the issue with the new art centre is it's two different sites. It's the old Watermans and it's the police station site. And so it's sort of quite complex to bring them through together. Because the flats above Watermans are going to be flats that we can put people from our council housing waiting list onto, to make that financially viable, we need a relationship with a housing association who will help fund that. Now, my understanding, and once that's all been signed and agreed, that's when it can go forward. My understanding is we are almost as close to getting that all signed and agreed as we can be without it being finalised. So everyone has progressed a long way on it. It has not been completely checked by all the lawyers and everyone's happy and fully signed off, but I think it's working out the fine details. So we're just waiting for that to be formally done, and then things should happen quite quickly.
Thanks, Dan. I understood that spades were going to be in the ground in spring, and then I was told by somebody else that spades are going to be in the ground in the summer. Do you have a date for when spades are going to go into the ground?
No, I don't. I hope as soon as possible.
Okay, and just this point about this delay that's been going on as far as that's concerned, my recollection from a conversation with Steve Curran when he was leader of the council was that actually his ambition was to buy every single flat on the police station site and put that into use, into public use, either through social housing or housing associations, not wait for some housing association provider to take this on, but actually for the council itself to do that, in which case, if people had stuck with that proposal, there wouldn't have been a delay at all. So why hasn't that been done?
Yeah, I don't know the reasons for why that changed. I'd imagine the changing economic outlook could be a reason, but I wouldn't want to comment because I don't know the reasons for that. I only know where we are now. We have 4 minutes left of the open forum. Do we have any more questions? A second question, very quick.
Yeah, hello. I just heard that the Gillette building's going to be knocked down. Is that right? Or
no, that's not right.
I read it in the Gazette.
The Gillette building is going to be turned into a state-of-the-art film studio, but all of the key architectural features of it are being retained. I also sit on the planning committee. We passed it at the last planning committee, and at no point did they talk about. There's some on the site. There's some buildings you sort of can't see from the road that are sort of low quality. Some of those are going to be knocked down, but the main building that we all know and love, that's going to stay.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Any more burning questions? Right at the back.
Hi, I just wanted to ask about the shopkeepers on the south side of the high street. When are they coming in? What more can you give us in terms of information? And also, as I understand, they should have compensation. Is there more being given to them? Because this is taking really a long time.
So my understanding is there is going to be, I think 2 should be happening fairly soon. I think more like weeks than months. It is a long process, and it's not, I think part of the problem is it's not a white shell. There's a lot of fit out that you've got to do. In terms of compensation, if you're talking about the businesses that came from Albany Parade, businesses were given a lot of compensation. Many of them had rent-free periods. Some choose to take a financial buyout and moved away. But it's a long process, but we're getting there. We've got just 2 minutes left. Are there any more questions? Hold on a second. Can we we'll take the question really quickly. We'll take the question, and I'll try and sum it up very quickly if you can.
I just want to say great news. I noticed today that we have a new dentist office next to the pharmacy on the high street, which is wonderful. Thank you.
Agreed. And then gentleman here. Microphone.
Sorry. What's happening with the extension of the bike lane? There was a consultation on that, and I haven't heard anything since, unless I've missed something.
We'll come back to that. And then very quickly in the front here. Wait for the microphone. It's all right? Wait for the microphone.
Sorry. There were so many big businesses in Great West Road, none anymore. And businesses all gone. All is flats.
Oh, there's lots
you need
of
business as well.
Yes, there's lots of businesses in the Great West Road, and there's more coming.
Okay.
Catherine, do you want to comment on the bike lane?
Thank you.
Yeah, so on the extension of Cycleway 9, you're right, that consultation happened quite some time ago now. So that sits with TfL. They have published their report on that section from where it ends now up as far as it's not as far as Bush Corner, is it? It's as far as the entrance to Syon Park. So the council is now looking at what TfL have published. TfL are working up more detailed plans, and we will be looking at those in detail and taking a decision at some point this year, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of the meeting. The next meeting is on the 7th of July. Thank you all for coming. I'll see you at the next one.